Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Southside Beat here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers YouTube channel and DKPittsburghSports.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. My name is Chris Halicke. Joining me, Greg Macafee, Matt Williamson. What's going on, fellas?
Not much, man.
How we doing?
Doing great, man. I'm super stoked. It's Super Bowl weekend. I'm gonna have a big shindig at the house.
Cool.
Gonna get some pizza, some wings, some chips.
I guess my invite got lost in the mail.
You are more.
I covered the team with him, and I didn't even get an invite.
You guys are more than welcome to come over. I promise, man. More than welcome. I'm thinking about trying to get this place. I live near an Extra Slice in New York in Manor, PA. There's some delicious pizza right there.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Catch me at a hungry time too.
Yeah, I know. I need to be eating dinner too. So. So I think the first thing we'll hit on in this in today's show is the big news of the day. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've been on here, but obviously we have wrapped up the Steelers season already, and so we can get into some actual Steelers roster decisions possibly. But we're definitely going to hit on the latest news and, of course, the Super Bowl matchup between the Chiefs and the Eagles. But for now, big news of the day, the Steelers, it's official. The Steelers will be playing a football game, a regular season NFL game in Ireland, in Dublin, Ireland, at Croke Park Stadium. I'm super stoked. I know DK is also really looking forward to it because that's going to be, I think when we were hearing about the possibility of either Ireland or Mexico City, and it's nothing against Mexico at all. It's just, it's Ireland. And Ireland that's on my bucket list. So I'm super stoked about it. I know DK's been there before and he said it's awesome. So I'm looking forward to it. Just what are your initial thoughts on the Steelers getting to host a game over there? They will have to give up one of their home games in order to do it. It's kind of part of the NFL international, their whole program that they're doing right now. But just curious on your guys' thoughts on that.
Take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's really cool. I was able to go over to Ireland when my senior year of high school. I loved it over there. It was really cool atmosphere, everything like that. So I think it's a cool opportunity for the team. Obviously, the one thing you see with a lot of these international games is how the travel affects the teams and things of that nature. So as long as they can get that figured out, and I would hope that they would figure out a travel plan or a course of action way ahead of time. So it's not kind of like a last minute thing, and they're obviously going over there two days before the game or something like that. As long as they can get that figured out, I think it'll be a pretty cool opportunity for fans, media, the team to play overseas and kind of play with that exposure to a different country. I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, the little homework I've done on it. I've been busy today, but we did do the drive and had a long conversation with it, and we had the Steelers podcast producer was on as a guest. The Irish version, and he couldn't have been more excited. Michael was all fired up for that, and we were talking about the venue and, that it's been somewhat recently renovated, but it goes back to the 1800s. And I just kind of learning some of the history of the venue in itself. I mean, Bloody Sunday and all kinds of crazy, awesome sports events. And he was talking about how they've been made it larger over the years, but there's like no bad seats in the house. And it's going to be awesome. I'm hoping I can somehow get in on the plane, and I'm part of it. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it holds like 82,000 or something like that. Did I see?
I think so.
Yeah, it's a big crowd right there.
That's a big crowd, and I'm glad you mentioned the travel aspect of it, Greg, because the last time the Steelers played overseas was in 2013 in London, and that did not go well for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin did not go early; they went later. They did. I didn't think they left until Friday. And needless to say, that was not enough time to get used to the time change. And from stories that I've heard about that is that the Vikings were way more fresh, way more rested than the Steelers were. And that was one of the reasons why the Steelers lost that game and fell to 0-4 to start that season. Now, obviously, we know that they came back and didn't have a losing season, but still, that was a pretty pivotal game. In that season, they really needed to avoid an 0-4 start, and they didn't do it. And so I expect Mike Tomlin to maybe learn his lesson from a little more than a decade ago and get over there a little earlier, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, get used to the time change, get used to everything, get into a routine. And from what I've heard from team sources, this is not like groundbreaking news or anything, but I've heard that the game is most likely going to be late September. That is not official. That's just, again, people that I've talked to, inside the organization feel that game is eventually going to be officially announced as late September. Maybe that I was looking at the calendar, maybe September 28th as an very, very unofficial date. Don't start booking everything right now because I said it. Just wait for the team to make it official. But that's kind of what I'm hearing. I saw a report today that maybe they're going to play the Packers, but I'm not exactly sure about that either. I reached out to some people in the organization. They just said right now all that's official is that we're playing there. Dates and opponents have not been set in stone yet. So
real quick, Chris, I mean, again, this isn't news or I'm not trying to break anything, but it sounds like, I mean, there's only 9 potential teams and somebody's on the home schedule. It probably won't be a divisional game. Yeah. I think there's a couple of the other teams that are scheduled to come here that already have an international game, so they won't ask them to do 2. And if you kind of do that process of elimination, I think it comes down to the Packers, as you mentioned, the Vikings or Seattle, from what I understand. Like those are it'll be probably one of those teams.
And I think Packers just
makes the most sense.
Yeah, it makes the most sense. They've played each other in the Super Bowl before, 2 historic franchises.
They'll travel well too.
Yeah, they will. Packers fans travel well. So I think it'd be a really, really cool event if it was Steelers Packers. I think that'd be a heck of a game. Both teams are, playoff contenders right now and will most likely at least be that, near the beginning of the season next year, unless both teams have, or one of the teams have terrible off seasons, which I don't foresee happening. But, we also have a break coming up in about a minute. When we come back, we're going to try to start maybe setting a plan in motion for what the Steelers can do to improve on the roster. But either way, I think it's a really cool thing. I know some people, there's a small portion of people out there that are a little upset because their Steelers are giving away a home game and why do they have to play overseas? Yeah. But listen, this is a really great opportunity for the game to be grown, not just in the United States, but all over the world. And there's strong ties between the Steelers and Ireland. It's not just because of the Rooney family, but they have invested time and money over there to build a fan base there. And it's really, really cool to see that come to fruition with an actual regular season game there, not just a preseason game like what happened 100%. Back in 1997. So any final thoughts on this before we head to break and start digging into the actual Steelers football team that that will end up taking that field over in Croke Park next year?
No, not really, but you're right. It's a great opportunity. Yeah, people should definitely look at trying to get over there. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, I can second that statement.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap things up here on this first segment. We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna put a plan in motion. We're gonna try to see what Omar Khan and the front office and Mike Tomlin and all of them are gonna try to do to improve this roster. They got a lot of salary cap space to play with, so let's see. But we'll be right back right after this.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All righty, so the Steelers have quite a bit of cap space to play with. Last I looked, a little over $40 million. Can definitely do more to, just cutting Preston Smith alone gives another $13 million with no dead cap. So that's a pretty easy decision.
There's a handful of pretty simple moves. You can get the pretty high number pretty quick.
For sure. But obviously, and Art Rooney II, he met with reporters a couple weeks ago. Our DK was in that meeting. I was on my way to Mobile. I would have been in that meeting, but obviously I had to travel to Mobile for the Senior Bowl. So DK sat in that meeting, and he talked about the quarterback position, said it's a priority, as it should be. The quarterback position is the most important in not just football, but all sports. And so they got to figure out what they're going to do there. And I know that DK's reporting, and I've kind of gotten the same sense that Russell Wilson's not the preferred guy of the two, that Art Rooney II did say that they want to bring back, one of them. And, we'll see about that, obviously. But who would you, regardless of what the Steelers are doing, not doing, who would you try to bring back between Russ and Justin? Either one of you guys.
I think there's really strong arguments for both. Yeah. And I could be either one's lawyer and put a pretty strong case together. I think in the end, if I have to pick between the two, I would lean towards Wilson. And one of the reasons is I think one thing that people aren't thinking about is the backup. Yeah, I think that the backup could easily be a 4th-round pick this year that learns some things from the veteran. And I know that's not how you make your decision of 2nd-string quarterback, 3rd-string quarterback, etc. But I also think that if you do go with Fields, you have to be pretty conscious of his backup. I mean, he's never finished a season healthy. Mm-hmm. His style of play is going to lend itself to a lot of hits. And just frankly, looking around this draft class, free agents, available players, there aren't many similar super athletic, great runners that would fit the bill to be a quality backup. Like Trey Lance, he hasn't done anything. Like Milroe, I'm like, that's one portion of it. And right or wrong, I definitely think that this organization isn't going to tolerate a 5 or 6 win season. And I think if Fields is your quarterback, that's more likely. And I could make a case for Fields too, that his upside's greater. Obviously, he's younger. I assume his contract will be cheaper. But he hasn't given us a ton of things to go off of that, boy, this guy's the next great one, Right.
Greg, what do you think?
I think it depends a lot on price in a way. Obviously DK has reported what he's reported today, but if Wilson were to come back on a, I don't know, $10 million, something like that. I don't know the exact number, but if he's not looking to make big money, it might make sense for a year or two to kind of, have a bridge type quarterback with his experience. Mm-hmm. Obviously I think the upside might be there, in the way that he's kind of showcased his talents at times this year. I've always been a big, supporter of Fields though. I think his athletic ability, his ability to run the ball kind of fits what the Steelers have done in the past. It fits how Mike Tomlin wants to play. It fits how Arthur Smith wants to play. But, as Art Rooney said, you kind of want to have quarterbacks that have similar abilities. And I don't know out there in the free agency sphere who kind of would fit that as a backup. But I like what Fields brings to the Steelers and how he improved over the course of this year. But I think it also kind of comes down to, what would they take or money financially wise, to come back to the Steelers.
There's a comment here for those watching live from Stephen A. Says, we are not good at developing young quarterbacks. What makes you think they'd start now? I actually disagree with that completely because Justin Fields grew.
Much evidence of that,
yeah.
Right?
Well,
right.
But Justin Fields grew in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Let's be fair about Justin Fields here. Now, has he lived up to the billing of an 11th overall pick so far? No, he has not. However, and I had a lot of conversations with different scouts, and some of these guys have multiple decades worth of experience, and so I trust what they say. And I asked them, like, at what rate do quarterbacks grow? And the answer from a lot of them was, it really depends on their situation. And so, and so I started looking, okay, well, Justin Fields' first 3 years, 2 head coaches, 2 offensive coordinators. That's
awful.
Inconsistency. That's not you're asking him to constantly get used to a new system, a new playbook. And that's not conducive for growth. He gets to Pittsburgh under Arthur Smith, under Tom Arth and Mike Sullivan and all these guys. He turns the ball over twice in 6 games after he turned it over 41 times in 3 seasons. So he protected the ball better. He got significantly better throwing to the intermediate portion of the field. And I have the numbers to back that up. They're in our DK Pittsburgh Sports Steelers feed. Go look at them on dkpittsburghsports.com. his intermediate numbers got significantly better in terms of efficiency, in terms of turnover-worthy throws, all that kind of stuff. Whether you talk about traditional stats or advanced metrics,
and that's the tough stuff.
Yeah,
that's the hard stuff,
Right, and so he definitely grew. And I'm not saying that this is definitely the decision they need to make, but he definitely took a step forward with this offense. And I understand why they didn't do it for a number of reasons. Number one, you want to get the veteran in there who's won a Super Bowl, but just because you want to see what he's going to do for sure, because he has the experience. Also, you didn't want to give away a 4th-round pick if you didn't have to, right? Because if Justin Fields played more than 51% of the snaps, the Steelers would have had to give away a 4th-round pick instead of a 6th-rounder. So I get, protecting your draft pick as well. But I'm just saying that with the growth that I saw from Justin, if you can get him for a relatively cheap contract, I with the upside that he carries, and now that Arthur Smith would have the complete ability to install his offense solely around Justin, I think it could be even better for his growth. And when we talk about a backup, do what the Ravens did. Is Tyler Huntley on a multi-year contract right now? I mean, that's who they had backing Lamar up when Lamar was out. And Tyler Huntley, now granted, it's kind of a joke that he did, but he went to the Pro Bowl as a backup, right?
It's not like they're impossible to find.
No, you can find a guy who can have that mobile aspect to the game. I mean, you're not going to find another Lamar Jackson to back up Lamar, just like you're not going to find another Justin Fields to back up Justin. But you can find a guy who can fit a similar mold. So I think it should be Justin. I think that's the way they're leaning. But I also don't think that they've completely made up their mind on that either. Or otherwise, you might have already see Justin sign his contract. So back
to that comment, this team can't develop quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Well, how many high resources have they put into quarter? I mean, Pickett didn't work out. Okay, that's one.
That's one.
And he's not the most naturally gifted guy in the world, and his offense wasn't ideal with Canada either. It's not like they have a 20-year history like the Bears and Browns where they just keep using 1st-round picks left and right on quarterbacks and blowing it.
Yeah, for sure. So I do think, if I just based off of what I know and also off of what DK is reporting, that they are leaning toward Justin, and Art Rooney II did say age is going to play a factor in that. And also, if let's think long-term future. If Russell Wilson was the one was brought back, there's not a long-term future there. What, another 2 or 3 years, maybe max?
No, you're looking 1st-round pick in 2026.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that definitely could be a plan for sure. But what if you bring back Justin and all of a sudden he realizes his potential? Now you don't have to worry about going to the draft for a quarterback because you just found your quarterback. And the potential is still there for him because he's only about to go into his age 26 season. So it's not a surefire bet. There is risk with it. Definitely. Not saying that if they bring back Justin Fields that he's the guy and he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the next decade. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think that there's a higher upside for them getting their next quarterback if you brought him back.
Yeah,
for sure.
You might have him.
Yeah. Right, you might.
You'd love to know that answer.
There have been a lot of debates because obviously during the Senior Bowl we saw the Steelers are focusing on defensive line, and they that was a huge. I mean, Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin didn't go away from those guys pretty much both days that they were there.
That was a good group.
Yeah, and it's a really, really good group of guys too. Walter Nolan looked really good. Darius Alexander out of Toledo looked fantastic. Yeah. I mean, went from being probably a mid-day 3 pick to maybe even a surefire day 2 pick with just 1 week at the Senior Bowl.
I don't know if he'll be there for the Steelers 2nd rounder. I mean, maybe not. He's supposed to go insane at the combine. He's a Bruce Feldman freak list guy. Just wait, right? Yeah.
No, the thing that got me about Darius Alexander was not only seeing what he was doing on the interior, because he would line up as a 1 tech or 3 tech or whatever. Then he lined up on the edge for his last rep of his last practice on the edge, where you'd see Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt, and just blew past the tackle. I mean, without even any resistance at all. And I'm just a man that big should not move that quick. And with that kind of explosion. And that was where I was like, okay, that dude's something else. And so, so I bring all that up to be like, what position do you think, do you guys, and I'll start with you, Greg, do you do the Steelers need to focus on as they, whether it's free agency or the draft, what's the biggest position of need going that they could use that salary cap space or use a first round pick or second round pick to really bolster that position?
I think I've said this a lot on this show, but wide receiver. I think it's, one of the position groups they have to address, whether it's in the draft or whether it's through free agency. Obviously there was a big gap there. There's a big hole there in the offense. You need someone opposite of George Pickens to kind of, open it up for him a little bit, create better targets, someone that's able to create separation, whether it's on the outside or in the slot, whatever is kind of needed. But you need someone opposite of George Pickens to draw some attention. So whether that comes through the draft or whether that comes in free agency, I think that's something that needs to be addressed this offseason for sure.
Without a doubt. And even to narrow it down more, and I'm not married to this approach, but this draft overall, the more and more I've dug into it, you almost have to come away with some sort of defensive tackle in a great defensive tackle draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that's a first 2-round situation.
Yeah.
You have to draft a running back. I mean, this running back class is insane. And maybe it's a 4th rounder, or maybe it's a 4th and a 7th, maybe it's 2nd. I don't know. But you're insane not to dip your toe deep into this running back water. And that, to me, leaves corner for big needs. I mean, yeah, they could use a slot, but I really, really want an outside man-to-man corner. And I think that's where I'm spending my money outside the organization. I mean, I could give you about 8 names that are hitting free agency: Byron Murphy, DJ Reed, and some other guys that are even cheaper, that I'm going to go outside the organization. Not that it's a bad corner draft, but I would love to have that locked up before the first round of the draft. And wide receiver, as you mentioned, is clear. There's no doubt about that. And maybe 2. I think a veteran, an adult in that room would go a long way.
Yeah.
Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, blah, 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 blah. Who knows? And another
Glad you
pick.
brought up Cooper Kupp. Yeah.
And frankly, I don't know that Pickens will be here next year.
Yeah,
right.
You might need 3. You might.
So, okay, really quick, because we don't want to go over a half hour here, and we've got about 7.5 minutes left. So, Cooper Kupp, really quickly, what would you be willing to give up? We're not going to bring Matthew Stafford into this yet because we don't know if the Rams are for sure going to make him available via trade. So let's just talk about Cooper Kupp. What would you be willing to give up? First off, would you want to bring him to the Steelers? And if so, what would you be willing to give up? Is it a day 2 pick? Is it an early day 3 pick? What would you be willing to give up, Greg?
I would definitely want to bring him in. I saw somewhere over the course of the last couple of weeks that he's the type of guy to kind of fit into any offense. And I think he can come in and have an impact. He'd be one of those veteran guys. It would be a good voice to have in the room, especially if George is still around. I think he could help out Calvin a lot to kind of be a veteran voice, a guy that can kind of bring younger guys along and things of that nature. As far as what I'd give up, depending on if the Rams are willing to take on any of his salary or anything like that, maybe a 2nd-day pick, 3rd-day pick, maybe. I would. There would be a decent amount of things that I would be able to give up to bring him in for sure.
I'm extremely interested, and I've done a lot of homework on this. He's due a large bonus in a couple weeks. I forget the date, and he will not be a Ram. They're not going to give him that bonus. He will not be a Ram at that point. He will either be released or traded to a team. There's 9,000 McVay disciples around the league that have all worked with Kupp that I'm sure are having these same conversations too. That being said, the greatest thing the Steelers have going for them, and other teams do too, is they have the cap space. They're trading cap space more so than you're trading picks. I think the price to acquire him, I know this might sound crazy, and our listeners will be like, do it right this second. I think it's an Allen Robinson trade. He's a little better than Robinson with the Rams. But it's
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt. But he has to go, and the whole world knows it. I'm not sure a 7th gets it done. They don't have a 6th, but I don't think you have to give him a 4th or a 5th. I mean, I think you could get this done reasonably cheap. He has an extensive injury history. He's not the man beater he used to be.
No.
He is best in the slot, but he's still a very good player. I mean, he's not the Triple Crown winner, and he never will be. But I don't think he's going to be super expensive, except for cap space.
Do you know who was actually a really good man beater this year? Calvin Austin.
Yeah. He was in college too.
He had a. I looked it up and I put it in our Steelers feed this week. He was, according to Fantasy Points and their average separation score data, he was the 10th best route man coverage beater in the NFL, better than Jamar Chase. Like that's now zone
underrated, really good year for him, by the way.
Yes, it was. It was really. That's why I really wanted, because I was like, there's something there that I know is there in the data that I'm seeing with my eyes. And that was the stat that jumped out to me was, oh my God, yeah, he beat man coverage like crazy.
Super quick, he's going to be back, and Ramon Wilson is going to be back.
Yeah,
which makes me not want any more little guys, because I like those two, but I don't need any more 5'8", 5'9" dudes. And Kupp obviously isn't.
One guy in the draft class who I'm curious about, and this is not a first round pick, probably a second round pick, if they go defensive tackle in the first round, but Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State, big body, really seems to be a guy who might be that rare blend of big body with the ability to win in man coverage. Probably won't be a guy who comes in day one and just sets the world on fire, but could become one of those type of guys. And again, guy who can line up outside. I think it's like 6'4", so it's really good size. So that's another guy to kind of watch out for.
And I will say there's a lot of veterans, Kupp included, that are going to be on the move.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of veteran receivers changing teams, trade or free agency.
Yeah, there will be plenty of options for the Steelers, and I don't see them doing what they did last year and pretty much putting all their eggs in the Brandon Ayuk basket and hoping that happens, and then it ends up not happening. Now they don't have a second receiver. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. We can get into plenty of more Steelers discussion next week. We have all offseason to get into it. There might be new developments by the time we meet next week. So, Super Bowl, Chiefs, Eagles. Greg, who's going to win?
I got the Chiefs. We submitted our picks earlier today. I don't know if you put them up there yet.
They're coming up this evening.
So I won't spoil the final score that I picked, but I mean I think they get it done. I mean they're on the cusp of a three-peat. I just think they get it done from what they've seen, what they've done in the past, everything like that. I'm a huge fan of Spags. I'm the defense coordinator for the Chiefs. Just the way he's able to dial up these exotic blitzes kind of all over the place. And obviously they have Pat Mahomes on the offensive side. I think they find a way to get it done.
Matt, what do you got for the game, man?
I agree, and I think it'll be a little lower scoring. A lot of possessing the football.
Yeah,
Kansas City through the air with a short, Steeler Christmas Day type of passing attack. Philly on the ground. Two great defensive coordinators, but I have to take the Chiefs in a tight game in the low 20s, probably something in that neighborhood. I just can't bet against Reed, Spags, Kelsey with some rest on his older body, and Mahomes. Frankly, I'm not betting against those guys in that game.
So last week I did bet against Mahomes. Or was that last week in the conference championship games? I did bet against Mahomes, and I always say that I'm not going to bet against Patrick Mahomes.
It's not good business.
And I'm glad I didn't actually place a bet because obviously the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. The Bills did not win, so I am learning from my mistake. I am not going to make it twice. I am not betting against Patrick Mahomes. I am going to pick the Chiefs to win. Plus, my aunt lives in Kansas City, so she'll be happy if the Chiefs win too. So, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I do think we'll see something a little similar to, because sometimes these games can get a little wonky at times. With Saquon could rattle off a 72-yard touchdown run, and then Patrick Mahomes could end up hitting Xavier Worthy for a 53-yard little. Or like hits him on a quick drag route or something like that. And he just takes off for 50-something yards, and we start seeing this kind of back and forth. So I'm going to say it's like another wonky, like 36-34 final score, but I'm going to say the Chiefs win. I just think
Been there, done it.
Again, I can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. He's an all-time great quarterback already, and man, it'll be if they win, it's the first three-peat in NFL history. That's
pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, to think that like nobody's done it. Like there've obviously been teams that have done back-to-back. Steelers obviously did it twice, but no team has been able to do the three-peat. Shoot, man, I'd like to see it. Screw it. I know a lot of people don't like the Chiefs right now because they're kind of turning into this generation's version of the Patriots, I guess, but I don't care.
Just embrace the greatness, man. You're going to tell your grandkids about it, folks.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
I mean, it's like the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes sounds like Kermit the Frog. I mean, how can you be mad at Kermit the Frog, man?
Pretty fun to watch, too.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap things up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, we'll be back next week. We're going to dive into a lot more Steelers talk. The Combine will be coming up here in just a few weeks. I'm excited to go. I love Indy. It's one of my favorite events to cover throughout the entire year, not just the offseason, but the entire year. Just the access. Matt, looking forward to it. We'll see each other down there. So, but until then, we'll catch you guys on the flippity flip. We'll see you later.
Bye, guys.